Let's talk about something kind of fun in this video, specifically desktop mode on Google Pixel devices. And we're going to get a little bit hypothetical and try to just sort of explore this topic in a way that I've not done on this channel before. Many people may not be aware that Google has been quietly iterating on, working on, experimenting with a Samsung Dex-like desktop mode on their devices for quite a long time. There's actually been a halfway functional desktop mode built into Android for quite some time. You can go into your developer options and plug in a particular device if it has display out capabilities, and you will see exactly what I'm talking about. It's there. It's not particularly functional, but it's there, and Google has continued for years to tweak this, to mess with it. You'll see things pop up from different reporters who've looked at the code in these Android updates, and they can see references to things that were worked on and then disabled. Of course, the Pixel 8 and 8 Pro, rather famously, finally shipped with the hardware capable of plugging in a USB-C port, plugging it into a monitor, and having display out. Other Pixel devices lack this hardware. This feature was turned off, literally disabled. They've recently enabled it in the QPR3 beta, if I'm not mistaken. This is all very interesting. So what we're going to talk about today is, what would I want to see out of a Google Pixel desktop mode, a Pixel version of what Samsung has done with Dex. So for those who maybe aren't super familiar with Dex, I think that's the most logical place to start. What I've done is I have plugged my S23 Ultra into a capture card, and I now am looking at the Dex interface. Yes, this is being powered by my S23 Ultra. I'm actually using it as a trackpad to control this interface, and it works really, really well. Perhaps you're using a lap dock, perhaps you're using an external mouse and keyboard, Bluetooth, and an external monitor of some sort. You can simply have this phone and pack a few things into a bag, set it up, and you have this interface, which, as you can see, I've not used in a while. I've not used Edge as my mobile browser in quite some time, but there it still is pinned to the dock. What can you do with this? Well, you can go over here to your app drawer, and you can see all of your different applications. Let's just fire up YouTube off the dock. And what you'll see here is that it pops up in a floating window, just like it would on an actual desktop. And if I double tap, I think, there we go, I can actually drag this around. I can come down here and I can resize it. If I click there, I can drag this out and resize it. I can full screen it. I can snap it to one side or the other. Let's see if I can do that. If I drag it over here, boom, there that is, just like Windows. And if I had another app, it would give me the option to snap another window over there. You've got some controls over here, screenshot button, volume, your notifications will all come through, and then a little quick settings area. Again, very similar to what you have on an actual full-blown desktop. And for people who are like productivity minded, this gives Samsung's devices a really significant leg up, especially over Google's devices, right? So what would Google do to sort of emulate this? Well, let's first take a look at what they currently have going. It's not great. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to talk over one of my own videos, because I think that's the quickest way I can demonstrate this. This is my Pixel 8 Pro, and I have opted into this most recent beta, which actually enables video out over USB-C. This is just a little portable OLED monitor that I have, and you'll see here that I plugged this all together, and I'm going to get a pop-up that says mirror to external display, and there is my external display being mirrored. But there's actually more that you can do. I mean, this is, potentially kind of cool, somewhat useful. You can rotate it and it'll fill up the screen a little bit better. It's not totally useless, but there is more that you can do, because you can jump into developer options and you can find a couple of settings here: force to be resizable, freeform windows, force desktop mode. And if you then plug the thing back in again, you get this sort of strange, half-broken desktop mode where this device stays usable. It stays as a separate device, But then this device kind of becomes its own thing, and there is this full screen app drawer. And if I launch an application, kind of like Dex, you get it in this free floating window, which can be resized and it can be full screen and all that good stuff. Now, obviously, a lot of stuff is missing from this interface. There's no bar at the bottom, right? So a lot of the stuff I just mentioned, like the app drawer in that corner, it's over in the other corner, but you don't have the controls, you don't have search, you don't have your screenshot button, you don't have a volume mixer, you don't have the quick settings toggle, you don't have a calendar in the corner. You're missing a ton of stuff that makes this usable. And in fact, one of the things that's really weird is when you can't like minimize a running app down to that taskbar. So obviously this is like not even remotely finished. This is an experimental thing, which other OEMs have built on top of, but Google has not built on top of quite yet. But what if they did? What would that look like? What would be the way I would go for something like this? And to answer this question, I think Google need look no further than what they've already built on a Chromebook. They already have their own desktop UI that is capable of running Android devices. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying they should make Chrome OS run on your phone. You plug in your phone and it boots into Chrome OS. That would be totally redundant and not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is they should clone this user interface. They should clone many aspects of this functionality within Android, and I think we should take a look at it. Now, I want to make it very clear, I'm not the originator of this idea. I have heard this idea from a bunch of different people. I couldn't possibly name all of the comments from people who've said things like this in the comments on my own videos. So if you've said it in a comment and I didn't call you out, I'm sorry. I would have had to have called out like 50 different people. A lot of people have kind of come to the same idea, but I kind of wanted to expand upon it. So this is the Chrome OS interface, and you're going to see a lot of similarities between this and Dex, and of course other desktop UIs. So we have our little quick settings over here, which work just fine. We have our calendar over there next to this quick setting panel, obviously, and of course this is going to link into your Google Calendar and your things are going to be there. You have your notifications right here. There's probably, there we go, a backup is incomplete. That's fine. We have Phone Hub. Now this is interesting because you wouldn't really need both of these things, right? If this is running off of your phone, your notifications can all be right there, but Phone Hub is there. Maybe they could think of something to do with that. You have your pinned applications here, and then you have an app drawer over here on the other side, and I think it looks good. It looks like a Pixel. It has a very Pixel-ish user interface, and more of that kind of stuff is coming. The Material You stuff, more and more of that stuff is coming. There's a Google Assistant little launcher there. There's a search that pops up like a universal search. And of course, you have the ability to run Android apps. Let's fire up the Play Store and you'll see that the same sorts of things are true. You can resize these applications just like you can on anything else. You can maximize them. You can minimize them. You can, I think, can you drag things to the edge? You can. You can do that exact same stuff, right? So if Google were to simply take some of this stuff, the appearance of this UI and some of those things that they've already kind of worked out with Chrome OS and put it on their Pixel devices in such a way that you plug it into that monitor just like you do your S20 whatever Ultra and it fires up Dex. Your Pixel device fires up an interface that looks strikingly similar to that. I think that would be very, very cool, and it would give them this sort of brand unity where Pixels and Chromebooks have that sort of connective tissue, if you will, between them. Much the same way that whether you're using an iPhone or an iPad or an Apple MacBook or whatever it might be, all of their, user interfaces, all their operating systems, or I guess an Apple Vision Pro even, they have a similar look and feel to them. They're not identical, right? Because different form factors need different user interfaces. But they all feel like they're kind of coming from the same place. And if I'm going to sit here and basically fantasy book how I want this story to go, let me add one more thing. It's really cool that on a Samsung Galaxy tab, you can press a button and switch to the Dex interface on that device. What's frustrating, though, is you can't do that on your Z Fold. I guess they think that screen is too small for something like that. Maybe they think the aspect ratio is wrong for something like that. But you know what phone has an aspect ratio that would make sense to run a desktop mode natively on it? Well, that would be the Pixel Fold. How sweet would it be to be able to pull down your quick settings and press a button that would switch you to a full-blown Chrome OS style interface right there directly on this device. Would it be like particularly useful? I don't know, but I would love to be able to try it. It would be really, really fun and cool to see. And heck, while we're at it, we have things like wireless DeX, and Motorola, I believe, has a wireless version of Ready For, where you're actually casting, so to speak, that interface from this device or from an appropriate or a compatible device. Just because the Pixel Fold can't do video out over the USB-C port, that doesn't mean it couldn't do this sort of thing wirelessly, and it absolutely has the horsepower to do it. So those are sort of my plans, my fantasy plans for how I would like to see Google implement a desktop mode on their Pixel devices, but I'm sure I've left out some things that you would love to see as well. Drop those in the comments down below, guys. I'll see you on the next one, and until next time, stay nerdy, my friends.